and no long-term contracts. With Spectrum Business and just internet, you get support with 100% US-based customer service. Real people who understand small business, ready 24/7 to help you stay up and running. Join millions of business owners like you across America who trust Spectrum Business for reliability, speed, and support. Visit spectrum.com/business today to get started. Restrictions apply. Services not available in all areas.
Guys, it's no use putting it off. The best time for an underwear refresh is now. Tommy John underwear is designed for a perfect fit that stays put all day. Their zero chafe thanks to 4 times more stretch than competing brands, and their innovative horizontal quick draw fly is a game changer. With over 30 million pairs sold, there are thousands of men out there more comfortable than you. Don't settle for less. Go to TommyJohn.com today for 25% off your first order with code COMFORT. That's TommyJohn.com, code COMFORT. Tommy John, comfort perfected.
Statements and opinions by guests of Mysterious Radio are not to be considered as endorsed by sponsors or affiliated networks. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this podcast without the express written consent of Mysterious Radio is strictly prohibited.
Get ready for a night filled with conspiracies, strange places, the paranormal, UFOs, legends, and myths from around the world. With your hosts, K-Town on Mysterious Radio.
To bring you another great edition. Tonight we're going to be talking to Patricia Corey, who is my special guest here to discuss her book called The New Syrian Revelations, Galactic Prophecies for the Ascending Human Collective. Now, sometime in 1986, she had an out-of-body experience that was extraordinary. By the way, it's patriciacorey.com, and Corey is spelled CORI.com. You can get all of her books from her website, or you can get all of them from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, and the rest of them. All right, here she is, Patricia Corey and the New Syrian Revelations. Tonight is Patricia Corey, and she's going to be discussing her new book called The Syrian Revelations, Galactic Prophecies for the Ascending Human Collective. This book is available on Amazon.com. Patricia, I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight on Mysterious Radio.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to it, K-Town.
Oh, absolutely. Now, your book is very, very interesting and can't wait to get into it. But before we do, can you take a moment to tell my listeners a little bit about yourself, Patricia?
All right. Well, I am a lifetime mystic. I was born with very powerful psychic faculties, and my mom encouraged it. So I didn't really come into my spirituality or my mysticism. I just kind of, this is my life path. And it's a wonderful journey on this planet. I'm an adventurer. I go to spiritual sites and mystery places and historic sacred temples, looking for the traces of all that is great and exciting about humanity. And, you know, I'm a big ET person, so I'm kind of like all over the place. But I started channeling books in 1996, after I went into a crop circle and had a extraordinary out-of-body experience. And I've been bringing these messages from the sixth dimensional beings that call themselves the Syrian High Council to the people that are ready to hear the information, which is more and more and more humans. And 20 years later, this book, it's actually called The New Syrian Revelations because there have been 14 books before this. And so this one kind of like rocks it with all of the, you know, really bizarre things that we're really openly talking about now, like parallel dimensions and simultaneous time and things we can get into.
Right. So now I got to ask you, what prompted your out-of-body experience? Was it medical or what happened there?
Well, I had a dream the day before. I was in England for a course on color healing, and I had a dream where I was flying over Stonehenge, and I saw this spiral in the wheat next to the temple, the Stonehenge formation. all of this in a dream. And in the dream, I was just like, what is that? And a voice said that it's an interdimensional contact point, and it's going to be extremely important to you, so pay attention. Sorry, what I heard was it's an interdimensional lock-on point, and pay attention. And I woke up, it was 4 a.m, and I was like, whoa, what was that? And the next day, the students and I went to Glastonbury, which is this really wonderful, actually people think it's Avalon. And I looked in a bookstore, and up on the wall was the exact same thing that I'd seen in the dream. Stonehenge on one side and this gigantic spiral next to it. And I, at the time, didn't really know anything about crop circles. It was 1996. And I said to the book clerk, yeah, what is that symbol? And so she enlightened me to what a crop circle was, and that this important crop circle had come down next to Stonehenge. And when I told her about the dream, she said, wow, you've been called. Get yourself to the crop circle. So one of the professors, when he heard about it, drove me out there. And I went into the crop circle formation. And I no sooner got in than I just felt like I was going to pass out. I laid down in one of the 151 circles that were in the field. Started spinning. Felt very sick, actually. I felt I was going to throw up. Spinning. I started to turn into music. I could no longer feel my body. And then I could hear myself as music. I experienced myself as music. And then I was gone on this galactic journey. And when I came back, I thought it was a few minutes. I was having some kind of an altered state situation. But the professor told me that I was out for more than 2 hours. So call it missing time, call it whatever you want. But after that, I started channeling these messengers, and I truly believe that I got an attunement when that happened. And I just want to preface that by saying, what really matters is the information that comes through, not as much whether or not I'm really channeling, etc. Because, people want to or don't want to believe in mediumship, but you can't deny the information. It's 20 years now bringing through the information. It's always right.
Oh, you know what? I want to talk about that for just a moment. Okay, so before this happened to you, you had never channeled anything, right?
No, I'm a healer and I'm a psychic, but I've never had the faculty of hearing messages, and I've never really wanted to. I remember when it started, I was like, no way, I don't want to do this, because I did psychic healing and clairvoyant healing. I taught a lot of spiritual things, but I couldn't stop it. It was just pouring through me.
Channeling for me is when someone is actually, or an entity or being or something is using your body to speak through you. Is that what's happening here?
No, that's trance channeling. I would never allow that. No spirits in my body. So. I got enough going on in this body within every spirit is.
Okay, all right, my bad. All right.
And I also think, it's actually a misconception a lot of people have, and a lot of people are doing that kind of stuff. And, I just think it's a little dangerous to be calling in spirits, especially because there are all levels of spirits, as you know, in the astral layer. So we've got, all kinds of different intentions from beings that are more than happy to come into your body and start telling you what to do. But what I'm experiencing is like the way that I've been able to describe it to people is like bubbles of thought bubbles. And I hear them and I write down what I hear, and I think that my writing ability also is involved in bringing those thoughts to the page. But it is not within me. It's just it's a clairaudience, hearing something from another dimension. Very different than spirit possession or spirit entities in body. And like I said, trance channeling I would never do. I really warn people against.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Whether you love true crime or comedy, celebrity interviews or news, you call the shots on what's in your podcast queue. And guess what? Now you can call them on your auto insurance too, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. Get your quote today at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Parles-tu français?
Hablas español.
Parla italiano.
If you've used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based technique teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about actually talk about in the real world. With lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers, Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/listen. Spelled BABBEL.com/listen. Rules and restrictions may apply.
There are few things more fascinating than a child's imagination. You'll see it in the castles, the cities, and the spaceships they build, turning a few blocks into entire universes. Lego sets get to be a part of that from the very beginning. It's not just a toy, it's a creative building journey that grows alongside your child. Starting play as early as 1.5 with Lego Duplo, then transitioning to the smaller Lego bricks. And suddenly, those simple builds turn into detailed structures. That's the magic of Lego bricks. You're not just watching them play, you're watching their imagination expand. Learn more and start building today with Lego bricks.
But, to each his own.
Right. I've actually witnessed that at one time in person. Kim and I, there's a lady here in Knoxville that is a famous psychic, and she also works with policemen on some of the homicide cases. But she had a meeting, and she does this every month, where she channels her spirit guide. And when that happened, Kim and I could no longer see each other. We had absolute tunnel vision and nothing but white light on each side. Like I had to, completely turn my head to the side to see if she was still sitting there. She was, but I couldn't see. There was like 14 people in the room. I could see nobody else but this lady that was channeling when her spirit guide came through, and it was unbelievable. I've never, ever experienced anything like that, so that's why I asked.
Well, that's awesome. I'd love to meet her.
Yeah, she's great. She's a great woman. I have to give her information here if you'd like to touch base with her. Now I'm curious about some of the sacred places that you've been to, and I want to know, like, if you've experienced anything significant at any of them. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Oh boy, that is a big can of worms as far as where do I start. I've been to sacred places all of my life, and that includes Egypt, where I'm bringing it up again in 2019, sacred England, fairy glens, sacred site. England is just so rich. It's amazing, and especially if you know the path of Avalon and the Celtic lore and all of that. And Peru a few times. I really, Mexico, which is extraordinary, the Mayan history. And everywhere I go, I have extraordinary experiences because I am a shaman. I walk between the worlds. So I'm able, and and it's something that I've never trained for. It's just like I think you're born with this gift. I'm able to help people get through the portals, if you will, and experience things that are of other dimensions. We've had, Abydos Temple, for example, in Egypt is a multi-dimensional portal. In fact, do you know who he is?
No, I don't know who he is.
He is a man who claims to have worked at Area 51 and to have been in charge of the psychiatric well-being of a captured alien named J-Rod. And this alien being was suffering so much in Area 51 that this man, Dan Burish, was determined to help him get home. So the story goes, I wasn't there, but the story goes through many sources that this is real, that Dan Burish took him back to Abydos, where he said that's where he would be able to get through the portal. And poof, supposedly he went through this portal. So what's interesting about this is that I've had a lot of multidimensional experiences in Abydos. And I've experienced being in a room in the Temple of Abydos. I believe is the most sacred place in Egypt, and it has 7 different chapels that the pharaoh Seti dedicated to each of his favorite gods. So it's Seti and Sekhmet. Seti in each one, it's depicting him with the gods, being graced by the gods. Okay, so I went there. I spent 3 weeks because I was writing my book Where Pharaohs Dwell, and I had so much free time. I wasn't in with tourists. I was just there. I had a lot of time alone in this temple, and I went in very soon into this visit, this 3-week visit. I went in, and I was going to sit in each temple one a day. So day 2, I sit in this little chapel, and I'm looking at the wall going, wow, how did they do this detailing? Look at this feather, because there's one goddess of the Egyptian lore whose name is Maat, and she weighs the heart on a scale of people that are passing from life to the afterlife. She puts, the Egyptian lore goes, the heart of the deceased on one side of the scales and the feather on the other. And if the heart is too heavy, in other words, if your heart is not pure like a feather, then you don't get to go. So I'm looking at the wall, and I'm seeing this depiction of him, the pharaoh, holding this goddess in his hand, and she has this plume, headpiece, which is a feather, and I can see every little quill in this feather, and she has in her hand herself with this feather, and then smaller and smaller and smaller to the 6th degree until there's this miniature little thing. And I can still see the quills of this feather. So I'm staring at this thing going, wow. And I realized later, you're not going to see me go to a museum and sit there for 4 hours looking at a painting. But I was in there looking at that for 4 hours. I lost time. And when I came out, I spoke with the people that were hosting me and told them, I saw this incredible sculptured wall, this bas-relief in the second temple. And I told him, and he said, where did you see that? I said, in the second temple. He goes, no. And I said, why are you reacting like this? And he said, because it's not there. And he proceeded to tell me that the second temple was to the god Osiris or whatever. I said, come on, I'll show you. I've been in there for 4 hours. So we walk over, we go in. It's a completely different room, completely different artwork. And I started to get a little crazy because I was so compelled. So I said, well, I'm sure it was this one. And I went in and out of each one of these temples. Nothing was there like I'd seen it. All right, so I started to ask the Egyptian guards. My friend there, his name is Amir, who is a indigenous spiritual person, and this guy that was my host. Everybody had seen what I'd seen once and never again. And I realized, oh my God, it's because it's another dimension we're seeing. Now that's pretty cool. Especially when you have senses of other people, because when you've got your own experience, there's ego involved, there's, your own what you want to believe syndrome. But when you've got consensus of many people having a similar experience, that's very exciting. All right, well, like I said, there have 14 books before this one, many different kinds of information. And the first 3 books that came out that were channel books are called the Syrian Revelations. It's a trilogy of books. The new Syrian Revelations, people have been asking me, when are we going to get new information? What's happening now? And I guess when they're ready, because I don't hear anything. I'm busy with my life, whatever. And then boom, I started to hear new information about the transition of the human race, ascension, of course, a big topic for all of us. And, I have to say, without wanting to toot my own horn, I think I was one of the first people to ever even talk about ascension. I was definitely the first person that I know of to talk about DNA activation, because it was 20 years ago. So the New Syrian Revelations talks about where we are now, the ascension process, not only of individuals, not only of the earth, but they contend that the entire solar system is moving out of the 3rd dimension into the 4th. And that is a thread that runs through all the books. And it explains a lot of things, one of which is why we're all feeling time mutating. Do you?
What do you mean, like speeding up?
Well, sometimes it feels like it's speeding up. Sometimes it feels like it disappears. I'm having these experiences where time just disappears. It's not even like speeding up. The other day, it was 9:00 in the morning. I did a few things, fed the dogs, sat down at the computer, ran a few emails. The next time I looked at the computer, it was 3:30. Now, I wasn't in a trance. I don't do drugs. It's like, how did we get from 9:30 to 3:30 with me being unaware of it? And many people are starting to describe how they're feeling time mutate, where sometimes it's just gone. It's not even a sense of speeding up. It's just gone. Like they've been in a wormhole or something.
Right.
And I think that a lot of the phenomena that we're starting to experience has to do with us moving out of the third dimension and becoming four-dimensional beings. And that's pretty wild. And that's a lot about what the book is about. Where are we headed? What is ascension? What's the difference between death and ascension?
Yeah, what is the difference? I'm going to ask you that. So, because I've talked about it before on this show, and I'm getting different answers. So some are saying we're already in the fourth, we're going to the fifth, and some have said we're in the third, going to the fifth. Tell me your perspective on that. I'm not understanding why. I don't understand why people are saying different things. I should say that.
Well, because people are talking about their understanding and their impressions. And a lot of this is a gobbledygook of different channeled information or different mystics that are saying what they think. And to be honest, I invite people to be very discerning about the information that they embrace, including mine.